Hi, welcome back to Denali Chic Handmade. So the first step is to put your counter on 0. And then I'm going to get my yarn ready. And I'm going to look for the first black needle. So I'm going to crank my handle till I get to the first black needle. And now I'm at the needle. And I'm going to wrap my yarn around the first black needle. And this is what is called casting on. And then I'm going to slowly turn my handle and I'm going to place the yarn under every other hook all the way around. And as you can see, it's every other hook. And as the yarn is going down, it's grabbing onto, the needle's grabbing onto the yarn. And when I get to my first black hook, I'll open up my yarn guide and I'll place my yarn in the yarn guide. And now I'm going to close my yarn guide. I'm going to pull the tail just to make sure nothing is loose. And I'm going to slowly crank. The first couple of rows you go slow because you want to make sure none of the stitches get missed. So I'm going to continue on like this for 50 rows. And I'll get back to you in a little bit. I'm now on row 50 at the first black hook. I'm opening up my yarn guide and I'm going to go ahead and cut the red yarn. And I'm doing this because I'm putting on a white yarn to give it that Christmas theme. So when I get the white yarn, I'm going to put the white yarn around the black hook. And then I'm going to put the yarn in the yarn guide and close my yarn guide. And the first, I'm going to crank on the first row in white. I'm going to keep cranking until I get to the white color again, which will be at the first black hook. Now that I've done one row of the white, I'm going to take my yarn, I'm going to tie it together, the red and the white, so that nothing slips off. You'll also notice a little bit of a screen change, and I had to redo this part of the video, but the concept is still the same. I'm going to take my white yarn and I'm going to go and wrap it around to the first two black hooks. So again, I'm not putting the yarn back in the feeder. I'm just wrapping it around two hooks, and I'm turning my my handle a little bit so that I can get to the two hooks that are popping up. And I'm going to continue doing this for 8 rows. And I will meet you when I get to the end of the 8 rows. Now that I'm at the end of the 8 rows, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one final row of white by placing my yarn back in the yarn guide. Closing up my yarn guide, and then I'm going to go ahead and do one additional row of white to kind of cinch it up. And when I get to the end, the black needle, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut my yarn, and I'm going to add the red yarn back. I'm going to open up my yarn guide and place the red yarn into the yarn guide, and I'm going to slowly turn my handle, and I'm going to continue, and I'm going to make 50 more rows of the red, and I'll meet you when I get to the end. Now that I'm almost at row 50, I'm going to get to the black hook. I'm going to go ahead then and cut my yarn. I'm going to get a darning needle and thread my yarn. And I'm also, once I have that threaded, I'm going to roll up my work so that it's a little bit more compact. And I'm going to open up my yarn guide, take my yarn out, and slowly turn the handle as I'm picking up each of the stitches. So with the first few, you just want to pick one up at a time and then kind of pull on your work a little bit so that it doesn't pop up. And then as you're going along, you'll be able to pick up more stitches at once. And again, as you see, I'm just moving my handle and then I'm able to pick up more stitches. And I'm going to continue casting off till I get to the end. Once you've taken off your work, you go ahead and stretch it. And what you want to do is you want to get your darning needle and you want to cinch up both ends. And it's good to use a metal darning needle, and I'll have a link below on where if you don't have the metal ones, on where to get them. And I just do a couple pass-throughs. And again, it's just to cinch up the end. And that's my one end. Then I'm going to go ahead and cinch up the other end. The same method. Just pull the string, kind of gather it together, and then use your darning needle to go ahead and close that side up also. And you're going to really like this hat. It's really cute. It's a little bit different than your normal holiday hats. This has more of a feminine flair because it has a little bit of the twirl edge. You'll also you can also put a flower on it. I'm going to be putting a pom-pom on it today. But again, so I'm just cinching up the end, going through all the fabric and closing it up. And I also want to thank everyone to continue to support me. You guys have been great. I love coming up with these patterns, and I know I take a break once in a while, but I also have a full-time job, so sometimes it makes it a little challenging. But I do enjoy making the videos. So now once you've cinched up both ends, you just put both ends together, kind of stretching the hat out to give it some shape. Once you've put the hat together, what you do then is you kind of grab both layers together and you start, you're going to cinch it up together so that the hat doesn't come apart. So I'm getting my darning needle ready. And again, it's good to use the metal one because the plastic one would definitely break if you tried to go through all the layers. So just kind of go through and do a couple pass-throughs. What you're doing is you're just kind of making both the layers together. You're sewing them together so they don't come apart. I'm going to do a few here. And then I'm going to get my my pom-pom ready. And I'm shaping it. Let's see how cute this looks. It's got the nice little edging on it. Now, just to show you a difference in the pom-poms, these are both the same pom-pom, and I'll put a link to the pom-pom. The one pom-pom is right out of the bag, and the other one I just used a blow dryer to make it more fluffy. So that's a little trick you can do to make your pom-poms more fluffy. And look for the little loop. I put my darning needle through the loop. And then I'm going to pass it through both layers. And then I kind of feel for it, and I see where it's coming up, and because I want to put it close to the same place where I had the first yarn coming up. I'm going to make 2 passes through the loop, and then I'm going to go ahead and just put the needle through, and then I'm going to turn the hat inside out, do a couple more passes because I like to make sure that it's not going to come apart, the pom-pom. And again, I'm just sewing it through, cinching it up real well. And then once this is done, I'll show you a picture of how this looks on a model, and I'll also show you the option I have where I made it all in one color. It actually looks really nice. And once I'm done, I'm going to thread the yarn through both layers so we don't see it, kind of hide it. And here you go. It's a new version of a Santa hat for more of a feminine flair, and it's really cute. And look how fluffy the pom-pom is. And again, thanks for everything.